we're back at the AAC podcast where we talk about God, family, country, canine. And today's guest is going to be a really good one. We had a little bit of chat before we got in here, talked a little bit about hardship, about family a little bit, about God a little bit, and a little bit about canine. So I think we're going to hit about all 4 topics. But Roy, you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, we got my man here. His Instagram handle is Tactics and Finance. My man,
Sir.
Tyler.
Yep. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course, man.
Thanks for
Introduce.
having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'll just say this: that you and I actually were at Matt Sapala's event, and that was sick.
It was.
So got to spend some time with you, talk to you a little bit about you and what your intentions are. I was like, man, I gotta have this guy on our podcast. So yeah, I'll let you go ahead and take it from here.
Absolutely. Thanks again, guys, for having me on. Meeting you at Matt's event, I mean, phenomenal. I get to work closely with Matt, which is a huge blessing. Phenomenal leader. Where I connected with him was Marine Corps background is really what intrigued me about it, and it's been an awesome ride ever since. But a little bit about me. I met my wife in the Marine Corps. She's a Marine also.
Sick.
And as of lately, we've just been really on a journey walking with Christ and figuring out our purpose. And that's through relationships and being intentional with where you're trying to go. So it's been great.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited to have you here. And I was like, I've been checking all your tats. Like, is there a story? Is it just more of a?
I have a couple.
You just have a few.
I'm pretty sure most guys like you. I mean, especially coming out of the military, you guys there's a bunch of stories to them.
Yeah, we have a few. So this one is all about my sister. I lost a sister back in 2001. So she had given me a coin that had Psalm 34:7 on it. The other side had angel with sword and shield. I got her eyes, her birthday, all the things to honor her. And then this one was kind of more the military style. Just got some stuff I liked. Freedom, motorcycles, liberty or death. Got Marilyn rocking it. These ones are more just
Marilyn Monroe. There you go.
she's bad.
Are you a fan?
I just like I like powerful women, empowered women. So she kind of went against the grain, did her own thing.
That's kind of cool. Well, cool. You were telling us earlier that your wife is actually Russian too.
Yes, first gen American, Russian.
So my wife has some Russian in there. She's not full Russian, but like, what's that like?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, it's funny that she went through like extra screening to join the Marine Corps. Yeah, they're worried she's a Russian spy. So like, that's a joke that lives on forever. That she might be a Russian spy, and I'm cool with it.
Dang, really?
I'll never know. No, it's a joke.
Oh, okay.
Just play it.
You said it so good, though.
No.
Do you have a little bit of Russian in your background, or?
Not that I know of. No, I am Finnish and Scottish.
Finnish and Scottish.
Yeah, my mother is 100% Finnish, and my father is like 50% Scottish, 50% Irish. He's like half and half, and so my heritage is very I don't know what you call it. Like we were talking about this earlier, like leprechaun-y. But I don't look like leprechaun. No, I was talking this with Justin.
I mean, I can tell why you love green. I can tell.
Yeah. I'm kind of like the leprechaun mutt.
Okay.
I'm German and Irish.
All right, my man.
Stick together.
No,
need a beer.
I'm going to represent the Mexicans over here, so I got it from this side.
You got it from
token Mexican guy.
Completely token Mexican guy.
Yeah. Well, man, so what got you to join the military? Like, you know what, real quick, it's really funny because I almost joined. And I want to tell you this real quick, and I would love to hear your mindset of the thought process of how you get there. Because for me, I wanted to go do something really big with my life. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm in this little town, and I'm like, oh, what the heck am I going to do? And I'm like, let's just join the military because you get to go see the world, right? I'd like, they had that, I think they had that Godsmack song. I can't remember it.
Which one's that one?
Got you fired up?
Yeah, like you'd watch this commercial and be like, yeah, let's go. And so I went to every branch and had the recruiter come to my home. And I sat down with everyone, and I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. Oh, and so there's a lot of there's some are like, well, I can't do it because I can't fly planes. And so I was looking at the Air Force and the Navy, and I really like the Marines actually, because I was like, they're kind of like badass. And they're like, they get to it. And so I was like, I think I'm going to settle with the Marines actually and not be a fighter pilot. And so this is hilarious because I was like, I want to go do something big with my life. And then the night before I was going to sign papers, Tyler, I started a band with like 3 other guys. and so I was like, the recruiter came, I'm ready to go. I told him I'm going to sign up. And I was like, Nah, I started a band. I'm gonna be a rock star. And
What did he even say?
He's like, dude, you can do music in here. He's like, we got like a music thing. He was like, so like, dude, you were so in. Like, what happened? I was like, I don't know. I just want to be a rock star now. And he's just like totally bewildered. And I literally was, I don't know, 12 hours away from signing to go change my whole life. And the reason I want to ask you is I went out to my road and it was a left and a right. And I'm out in the country, and I literally was praying to God, like, where do you want me to go? I'm like, if I go left, I go in the military. If I go right, I'm joining this band, and I don't know what the heck's going to happen. And I know they're two different things. And I go, I don't want to do what I want. I want to know where you want me to go. And you want to know what he gave me? I got it instantly. He goes, I'm going to let you pick. I trust you. Either path, I'll be able to work through you. And
nice.
He literally gave me this choice. He's like, you can go that left or you can go right. I'm going to leave it up to you. And I know he doesn't do that all the time, but he literally told me, like, I'm with you wherever you go and I want you to decide. And so I didn't join the military because there was something in me where I'm like, there's a different life that I think I'm actually supposed to go this way. But I wanted to go to the military, but there's this thing in my heart that's like, I think there's a different path in my life. And so I actually was like, if he's going to give me the choice, I'm going to go that way. So that's how I ended up not going, but I'd love to hear how you ended up getting in. That's
cool. That's cool that you consulted with God on that decision.
That was not my conversation. I did not consult with God at all.
It's newer to me altogether. But for me, we'll start with, I guess, the school system, which is like a whole nother thing,
Bro,
right? But
we can go down this road.
Okay,
go ahead.
But yeah, so I mean, essentially, you know, I'm going through school. I had an older sister and a younger sister, and I was like excited for high school, as every kid is. And then I'm in high school and I'm going through my classes, and I'm like, half these classes I already know aren't going to matter later. But I'm supposed to be here 8 hours a day. Half the classes I don't care about. The other half are, you know, they're all right. I can knock those out. But it was just kind of this like interesting thing where everyone's like, you need to go get good grades so you can go to get a college degree so you can get a good job. And I was like, but what if I don't want to do it your way? Like, why is that the only option? Like, why is that the only thing anyone ever speaks on is like, you have to do this so you can do this, so you can do this. And so I was like, all right, whatever. So I finished high school. I was like, well, at least in college I get to pick what I'm studying because I'm paying for it, right?
Yeah.
So I get to college and I'm like, okay.
Which college were you?
Oh, I just went to Collin. Yeah. It's not a community college anymore.
Oh, it's not.
So, yeah.
Ooh, la la.
Yeah, it's fancy now. But yeah, so I went to Collin College, and even throughout that time, right, like you're getting ready to graduate and people are like, oh, what are you going to do? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to college. But even saying that, I felt like I wasn't being myself. I was just answering the way society wanted me to answer.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to college.
I went to Collin for a few years. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I might go back. I mean, I get free education, so I might take a class or two.
I don't. No, I tell my kids all the time, like, look, guys, if you want to go to college, you're going to go to college for a few things. One, it's going to be something specific if you're going to go. And two is that you're going to go there to learn to network. And you're not going to go to a community college.
Make those connections.
Don't go to community college. I'm saying you better go to an actual college because learn to network there. Community college, I mean, nothing wrong with going to community college at all. A lot of people go there, and it's a good way to get in if you want to go down that path. But it's not my favorite thing, just because I do believe that college in itself alone is a business. And if you're going to make me go and take an archery class just to get that credit, like, I call BS on that. That's bullshit.
I'll go in my backyard and take my own archery
Exactly.
Yeah. So went to college. There was classes I was interested in taking, and then they're like, oh, you need prerequisites for that. I'm like, what?
Exactly what I'm talking
I'm
about.
like, okay.
I don't even know what that word is, man.
Yeah, exactly. I had to take classes before I could take the class I wanted.
What?
And I'm like, okay, so that was all of high school, was me taking these classes someone else told me I needed to take. And then I get to college thinking I get to take whatever classes I want, and then I'm told I can't take them yet. And I'm like, I'm the one paying you. I don't understand. Like, what do you mean? Just let me take the class. And so I talked to my buddy Zach. Shout out to Zach. He was wild, man. He phenomenal guy. He doesn't let anyone stop him from anything. But,
see that guy you call up, hey, I'm gonna go and do this thing, He's like, yeah, I'm down. He's like,
Yep.
oh, you always have that friend that's always down for something.
Oh yeah, that's him. That's him. So I'm talking to him, and I'm like, this whole college thing is not what we've been told. I don't know how I'm feeling about it. Let's go do something different. So we were going to move to Ecuador and build houses in Ecuador for people that are retiring out in Ecuador.
Okay.
We're like, well, we need funds to do that. So let's go to Odessa, Texas, do the oil field stuff, make the money, then we'll move out there together. Well, there was a third amigo in that plan. And so he bailed out at the Odessa, Texas part. So we're like, well, we'll just go to Odessa, Texas and become men and do the thing, make all the money and figure it out from there. So we go out there, lived in my truck for a month looking for jobs, got the jobs, working 90, 100 hours a week. We were making great money. We were like, what are we really doing here now though? Because we don't really have the next step of our plan because our Ecuador connection exited the plan. So we're like, well, I don't know. I mean, we proved we can come out here and figure it out on our own. So let's just go back home and figure out what's next. So we go back home and, I start working for an electrician and I'm like, this isn't really it for me. Like, what I liked about going out to Odessa is I fully bet on myself. It forced me to develop and grow as a man. So what will give me more of that? So more purpose. So
yeah, what was going through your mind? It's so funny how things just work out the way they are. And you pointed this out. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back.
Oh yeah.
And so just in your mindset, you're going down these different paths, trying out these different careers. Some things fall off, some things happen. But when you're making those decisions, like, were you skeptical about things? Were you just like angry on certain things? What was going through those emotions? Right? I'm pretty sure you had some emotions going through that.
Yeah, I mean, I was always like growing up. I was young, and I was like, I had a very like, I'll just get it done kind of mindset. Like I fed on people telling me that's not how it happens. You can't do it that way. Mm-hmm. That won't work. I'm like, interesting. I have to go prove to you now that it can, and I can't just. I'm not here to sit and argue. I have to just go do it, and then I guess we'll talk about it after if you want to. But yeah, so it's just kind of like I guess like I have a defiance in me for those that
he's a rebel.
Don't believe that things can happen, right? Yeah. So I was like, I'll just go do it. So we did it. I felt purpose out there. Then when we came back home, I felt kind of back down. I'm like, I'm kind of back where I don't really know what I'm doing. I need to go find out more about myself. And so I had a friend in high school, Kevin. He always talked so highly about the Marine Corps. And at one point when I was kind of on my journey, like thinking, like kind of like convincing myself I was going to go to college and enjoy that experience, I was like, well, I could probably enlist and they'll pay for college. So I had like kind of thought about it along the way, but not really. And then when I got back, I just remember him talking about Marines, and I'm like, okay, Marines are actually like the real deal. So if I'm going on a journey to develop myself, I can't join a different branch if I believe that the Marine Corps is where, the most hardcore guys, like the men, go. So I have to go Marine Corps. And then I was like, well, I can't do a normal job in the Marine Corps because then I'm underselling what I am on this journey for, which is to figure out like who I am. Yeah. So I was like, I'll join infantry Marine Corps. So that's when I joined in 2015, is to be an infantry Marine. And then that was a great journey, lots of development, phenomenal guys, taught me a lot about myself. And then I got to meet my wife on a deployment on a Navy ship. So shout out to the Navy. Thanks for the ride. Right. So met her. Was crazy about her. But yeah, so that's what led me to the Marine Corps. Was just, I think, just trying to find people grow in different ways, right? And people get to see what's above the soil, and they can clap for you or whatever, and that's where ego can develop sometimes, or that's where you can be proud of your growth. But then there's the roots, and a lot of people don't focus on their roots.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the Marine Corps helped me build my roots.
That's good. You were talking about purpose and defiance, and you brought the word rebel up.
Rebel.
And the thing that hit me that was really interesting is, was there a defining moment in your life, or were you just think you were born that way, of like when somebody, you were almost like, what's the phrase? Like you like to go against the grain. And I can relate to this a lot. Did something happen in your life where you're just like, you switched, or were you just like that your whole life?
My wife calls it hold my beer. Let me show you.
Yeah.
I think that No, there wasn't a defining moment. It's just a matter of you get fed up with people telling you what you're going to do. The idea that someone else can put a wall up or a stoppage for someone else just from the lack of their vision or their confidence in themselves to be able to do it just gets me really twisted up. So when someone does that, I can't just ignore it. I have to almost I picture pulling a weed. Like if you just pull a weed at the top, it's going to grow right back. So you have to actually go, under it and pull it out at the root. And that's to basically go off and prove it can be done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we were out there talking a lot about our kind of like our faith, and you have some stuff on your, some tattoos that, what brought you to, are you deeper now into your faith? Because ever since, been back or just, in my conversation with Jaron, I've been really having a lot of conversations, getting in the roots of my faith. Me, I grew up, we grew up in our family where we're pretty much Baptist the whole time, and then kind of moved away from that. And then that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, being in that environment. Not to say there's not good people in there at all, but, it just kind of took me where I was aware of God, but I was like, kind of like, hey, I know you're there, but I'm going to keep going this way. But he's always been looking out for me. And so where was there a time for you that you were just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to look deeper into who God is, challenge him, because I don't see anything wrong with doing that at all. We've had conversations about that too as well.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Good question. I appreciate it. For me, I always believed in God. I think when I lost my sister, I was young. I was 6 years old.
Wow.
And so that
How old was she?
She was 15.
15.
Yeah, passed away in a car accident. So for me, it was that sense of if God's real and he has our back, then why do bad things happen? That kind of thing. And so it kind of put a fracture in my faith. And then looking at it through that lens, I think I was kind of closed off from it, because we would go to church on occasion, but something about when they'd pass the buckets for tithing, no one was walking with me through it. Yeah. So it was just kind of I was hurt. And so I was looking at it through this lens that wouldn't allow me to actually embrace anything, to grow. And so, I was tithing, I don't really understand it, but they're passing a bucket. I don't know where the money's going. I don't really
Did that ever make you feel uncomfortable too? Because ever since I saw that, I would look forward to putting money into it, but I was it always made me uncomfortable because I have no idea where that's going. But again, if only people would educate you on that.
Yep.
And they don't take the moment to educate the kids.
Important.
Yeah.
So important. Yeah, I didn't even understand it till last year. 2023 is when it really.
Isn't that crazy? You're 29 years old and you didn't understand that until last year.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
It's the journey of life with Christ.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you don't know and you never will know. And I think that's actually part of the beautiful part is if you can stay in your faith and be okay with not knowing. When you brought the tithing up, the first thing that came to my mind was if you put that in the bucket, or if you're going to give something to somebody, you're actually not giving it to that person, you're giving it to the Lord.
Yep.
And where that goes is not up to you. It's where he's going to do with it. Now, if someone takes that money out of that thing and they go do something shady and they do this, that's not for you to worry about. If you're really giving your 10%, or you're doing $1,000 here or 15, and you're like, hey, Lord, I'm giving this to your kingdom. And if you feel like you're supposed to put it in the bucket, or you're supposed to go help someone else, what they do with the money has nothing to do with you. And I think that when that hit me,
that's the conversation that no one's having with people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's really important, because if you look at it from this perspective, it changes everything, because
so it can be looked at as a taboo, type of conversation, which it doesn't even have to be that at all. In fact, it's not that at all.
I think this is a really interesting thing to dive into, is you can take this kind of scenario in many things with aspects to faith and to following Christ, of you have a pastor who had an affair with somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, now I can't, everything this person said is garbage now in my mind. No, you can still have, we're all human and things happen, right?
Yeah.
And so and it's interesting because lately, I don't know if you guys have been following it, but there's a lot of I would just call them leaders in the Christian music and big churches that are coming out with having affairs and stuff.
Oh, all the time.
No, but it's in the last year, it's been
like
pretty
a wave right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really sad because there's a lot of people that are like second guessing their faith because of what they're doing. But that's what you're doing, is you're putting your faith in man and not in God.
My pastor says, don't lean on me. I'm a human.
Yeah.
Right. Like, don't lean on. Yeah. It's really cool. He had a good talk, because love it when he's there. It's Pastor Earl from Shoreline City. And he was the first person, like, when he was preaching is when I heard God's voice. And so I was like in tears, like ran up hugging this man. He'd never even met me. And I'm just like, wow. But then, so I always loved it when he was there. And when he wasn't, there was a guest, it was always an incredible message. But I was always kind of like, oh, I hope he's there, you know? And then one day he shared, he's like, and don't you dare lean on me. I've failed. I've sinned. Like, he's so real. He's so real. But I like that you said that about, you know, people do get hurt by an individual. It's like, if you're betting to get hurt or be saved by a human, you're betting, like, it's not even a bet. You're guaranteed to be let down at some point.
So this makes me think about, you know, you have this guy, the preacher, who's, if you look at it, he's the CEO of this. I mean, he's not the true one. It's the big man upstairs, God himself. But like, he's sitting at the top of this congregation. Who is he speaking to? Like, who is his network of other people? Like, you know, just like a CEO, you're lonely. It's a lonely road going down, building something there. Same thing goes with the church. Is the leader of the congregation, are they also in a network of other men that are similar as well? Because, you know, we get almost put into like the position of like, this person has the answer. This is the mentor of everyone. But you also want to make sure that they're also getting in check with each other as well.
Yeah, the thing on that too is interesting, is you have a lot of leaders in the church. You know, this is why it's called the body of Christ, is we all have different roles to play.
Yep.
And people mistakenly will put the head, will put like the pastor or like the leader as the most important role. Well, you know, I've seen a lot of pastors actually go like, no, like, you're all the body. I'm just here to like give you the word, but you got to go do the work. Yeah. And too many people will sit in the pews and they'll live their life Monday through Saturday, not following Christ. And they come there to get filled, and then they leave and they don't live the life. And so there's the other flip side where these pastors, they're really putting their heart out, and they're like, guys, like, and this has actually hit me in the last year or two, is like, I'd be seeing, you know, like, we all want, like, say if we're going through a hard time, we want like someone that's really following Christ, like a superstar almost, to like pray for me. Right.
Yeah.
And I remember Tracy, where we go here at Storehouse, she was speaking one time, and she's like, I want to teach all of you guys to go pray for people. Like I'm here to empower you guys. And so like one time someone like, I need help. And she's like, all right, you go pray for that person. And I was like, that makes sense actually.
Yeah.
Because like cool. The Holy Spirit is in all of us. And so I think part of it is we as the body we have to embrace, and we have to engage more, and not just sit in the pews and just get a sermon every Sunday. We got to go live it. And so there's two sides to that.
It's easier said than done. It's, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You not agree with that?
No,
you looked totally at me like you were like, what are you talking about?
No. I looked at you like that is because of the journey that I've been on. Is I understand that it's easier said than done, but I've had a flip, like a light bulb switch went off in the last like year or two in me, of not sitting on the sidelines in life, business, spiritual, and what is a man's role too in the community. And for me, it looks like it's not sitting on the bench anymore. And God really wants to partner with people that are ready to go to war. We've talked about this. And so like I'm 36. I would say until I was 34, about 2 years ago, because of all these hardships I went through, and I had to get on my knees and be like, God, what am I here for? And we talk about purpose. And like, I know part of my purpose, it's to be a sheepdog and a protector of a group of people that are in my community. That's part of my role. And it's interesting because I've seen it play out in the last year, and different conversations have happened, which are really interesting. And just kind of like, who am I in the body? What is my purpose? And when you're living in your purpose, you have a fulfilled life and you have more joy. And so I looked at you like that because I was like, I know what it's like to not be engaged. Here's something interesting. I remember
I still fall into that category of like where I'm not engaged. And I wake up like it was literally this morning too. I got out and I kind of follow what Matt Sapala, like we were sitting at that table, and Matt says, I get up every morning and I put my feet in the grass, and he goes, I have my prayer and conversation. And I did that this morning too. Nice. And I was like, and I tried to make sure I get some sun in my eye. I was also watching this other podcast interview. Dr. I think he's a Dr. Huberman. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
So Huberman, he's like this neuroscientist out of Harvard, and he talks a lot about health, fitness, everything. He talks getting some sunlight in your eye for 10 seconds.
So important.
Yeah.
Right as the sun's coming up.
Yeah. And you're kind of, and then
I pray in my backyard I haven't in a bit, so I'm glad we're having this conversation. Best days is when I'm up before my entire family and I go out back and I pray, get on my knees in the grass in my backyard as the sun's coming up.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. It's like you're grounding yourself and you're connecting yourself to the earth that way. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, as soon as I felt that this morning, I was like, I need to be doing this. I'm going to be doing this every day. Guaranteed.
Yeah, I was going to add one thing to this that's interesting is my mind shift happened, and I'm going to use Daniel as an example when he got thrown in the lion's den. Mm-hmm. He gets thrown in there, and those lions, I saw a funny meme like last night, that's why it's coming to me, and they're like these guys are all like laughing like he's dead, and then it just shows Daniel like this video of like an actual person today like playing with lions, and they're like, this Daniel, and I was like,
nice.
And I was like, what's interesting is when you're living in your purpose, you don't care what other people think because the Lord's like, hey, get on your knees, and there's like 100 people. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like I don't want to get on my knees in front of 100 people and like raise my hands up. But if he's like, hey, in this moment, I need to do that because if you do that, then I'm gonna move this mountain.
Yep.
And I think we forget like that's what the mustard seed is to move it. Is it's listening to him in the moment. If he says, hey, go pray for this person, hey, go prophesy over this person. And we look at like, well, that's like the pastor's job or like someone more spiritual. And I would use this excuse all the time. I'm like, I'm not spiritual enough. I'm like, I don't want to like do that. And really it's just obedience. It's if you're a follower of Christ, it's just following Jesus. Mm-hmm. And if he says to move, you move. If he says to stay, you stay. And I think we get in this religious mindset that we have to have the answers. We have to have the complete knowledge. But when you're just living through the Holy Spirit and listening with him, it's so much easier. And then the thing to add on this, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is like, this is where the enemy comes in and he distracts us.
Oh yeah.
And we get self-doubt. We get worried like, oh, what are people going to think? And the crazy thing is I said this on the last podcast, or no, two ago, you asked me like, what motivates you? And I said,
yes. Mm-hmm.
My thing that motivates me is if I'm living to my full potential, that means the people in my community, they are going to be affected in such a way that they will get to be living in a different state. If I'm down here, if I'm living down here, not up here, they're not going to be able to live their best life either. In the same way, I need them in their life to be as active as they can in the Lord. And so when you're in a group of people who are living like that, a purpose-filled life, following Christ, and it's going to be super hard. But if you're going after it, it's like the journey of life. Like you're going to have the days where you actually surrender, and there's the next day, Lord, I'm afraid, and you don't do what he says. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Like that's when you go to God and be like, hey, like I failed today. Like I wanted to follow you and the fear of man hit me. How do I work on this? And I think that's the conversation that people don't have, is when you are falling and you're in the corner, is to be open and honest and go to your friends or go to community, go to God and be like, I fell down today and I need help.
Yeah.
I need help.
That's huge. And I think of, I think that we didn't ever hold him up, so we can't let him down. No one is going to be harder on themselves than the person that's just trying hard to make their father proud. And so it's like, how long are you going to bench yourself because you slipped up? Like you're a human, you're going to slip up. But what are you going to take from that and develop yourself? Or are you just going to stay there? But no, that's huge to be able to just go there and say, I'm ready to restart. I'm ready to receive your grace on this. I'm going to give myself grace on this. How can I move forward? Yeah, that's incredible.
What's one of your ways where you just kind of what you were saying, how to, like for me, it's the gym. Mm-hmm. I go to the gym and I come up with some great ideas to like, just when I have like these bad days, these bad situations happen, I tend to just go, the gym is like my therapy. I go there and I'm like freaking like fired up. I'm like ready to go. I have like new ideas, things to execute on. So it's like just part of my day. Is that kind of like what's your go-to?
So it was the gym for a really long time. I still love going to the gym. I just don't make it there as much as I need to. So between the gym and then honestly, when I take a shower, I'm like, I'll pray and then I'll crank the water to cold. And now I can't not do it. So now I'm like, start my morning with a prayer and a cold shower. And I usually just pray. I'm like, Lord, thank you for giving me the choice to make this harder for myself instead of being in an environment where I don't have a choice, but to have hardship at all times. So, use me, allow me to develop, and just show gratitude. And like, you get to go to the gym and you get to put your body, you get to break the flesh so it doesn't break you.
Yeah.
And like, what a blessing that you're in an environment where you get to do that. So starting the day off with gratitude is great. Doing something challenging, right? Cold shower, it's not that big of a deal, but it's something I can conquer on my worst day or on my best day. And so, yeah, that's something I do. And the gym. The gym's great.
This is what I'm learning this in the last month, basically, is when you're praying, when you're in the shower or whatever, do you say it out loud or you do it in your head?
I do it out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do it out loud.
I'm learning there's power in speaking forth out loud, like frequency into the world. Is different than just in your head. I
can't pray in my mind. It's like, it's so loud in my head when I try and pray in my head. So I'll just at least quietly pray.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there is. And then if you write it down, it shall be. Or if two people or more are praying, it shall be. So yeah, absolutely.
Prayer is very powerful. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you had asked me, what led me to my faith and what that looks like. And I shared kind of what I think knocked me off my path for a while, where I just wasn't seeking him anymore. And that was my sister. And then I joined the Marine Corps. I had lost the coin she gave me that had this verse on it. And I was like, so then I was in church on Sundays, partially because in boot camp, you were allowed to go to church on Sundays. And that was kind of a time to get away from your drill instructors. So I was like, cool guys, I'll go to church with the boys. Like, I'm not.
Was there some people that in your group that would abuse that?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's a way out.
The way out.
Yeah. So, but what a good way out, right?
Yeah.
Because I was never against it, but I wasn't. You wouldn't really catch me trying to go to church. But I was like, yeah, I'll go. So I would go, and so I was in church every Sunday during boot camp, and I was like, well, while I'm here, I need to find this verse because I lost my coin. And so I knew it was Psalms, but I didn't know what verse. So I'm in church trying to find it. And then I find it and then I read it. And it's the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and he delivers them. I'm like, okay, that's powerful. And so it was like, he was giving me these signs all along the way, but it was really when, you can't appreciate light unless you're in dark. And so my journey after I left the Marine Corps is I was completely lost in who I was. I had a son, I had an incredible wife, and I had identity crisis and loss of purpose after leaving the military. And so I was like, well, I know I need to make money and provide for my family. So I started doing that. I was making good money, and I kind of looked up and was like, I still don't have purpose. We have a house, we have the cars, and we look all right, but I don't know who I am. And we battled a lot, suicidal ideations, not knowing what I'm doing here, and just completely lost. And then same time we were invited into Matt's office was pretty much the same time we were invited to church with a good friend of ours. And so I remember hearing that the office, they had written scripture underneath all the carpet, and there's this very calming, you feel the Holy Spirit, there's a calming in the building. I just remember thinking how cool that was. I'd love to be part of something like that.
Yeah.
And so then we get invited to church, and my pastor actually explains tithing. I'm like, I can totally get behind that. They shared where the money's going. They said, it was when he said, you can give this amount, or you can give nothing. Just pray and ask the Lord what you're supposed to give. And I'm like, oh, he really didn't make this about the money. He made it about asking the Lord.
I love that level of transparency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was incredible. So I'm like, it brought my guard down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, like now I just want to hear what he has to say to me. So then I'm seeking him and I'm praying and I'm like, what am I to give? And whenever I had faced, like we were making good money where we were, but I knew it wasn't where I was meant to be. So I wanted to try and build that environment to be what I envisioned for my future, which is like multiple businesses, a lot of people like locking shields with me on their mission and vision, making it happen and being very successful together. And so I tried to build that there and it was suppressed. And I was like, okay, there's a concern that we would overdevelop our people and they might leave, which is not an abundance mindset. It's not where I can be operating. So I left. So I had left. We faced, financial hardship, but I knew I was taking a step on faith and I didn't align in that environment anymore. So we left. So now I'm in church, don't have money to give, but I'm just like, Lord, how much? Like, I'll give you what I have. And for weeks, nothing, just blank. And then it's like the fourth time we go to the church and my wife and I had been in arguments and we're in this loop of like not even understanding why we're not connecting. And
that happens a lot, just so you know.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna happen more and more.
Oh
often.
yeah. That's the more it can happen, the more we can improve, right?
Yes.
Right.
I mean, I embrace it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Love and Respect. Good book.
It is a good book.
Yeah. Good book. Yeah. But so I'm in church and I'm like, Lord, what am I to give? And I'm trying to figure out a way, because I'm in sales, so I'm trying to figure out, they had talked about briefly on retirement and they suggested a few things that aren't the best. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm supposed to provide some information to the people of the church. I was like, but I don't want to financially benefit from serving the church. So maybe that's how I'll give, is by serving them. If I make any money, I'll tithe. And I'm like, Lord, am I supposed to do that? What am I supposed to give? I was like, is it 50-50 or what is that? And I'm like, okay, maybe it's 50-50. And then I was like, okay, maybe it's 60% to the church. And then I was like, well, I questioned the 50-50. So that wasn't God, because I don't think I would have questioned it. I would have been certain.
Yeah.
And then right when I'm questioning that, boom, 100. And I'm like, wow.
100% of it.
That's what I was trying to process. So I received, like, give 100%. So I'm like, okay, like, that's fine. Like, I can step out on that boat. Like, let's do that. And so that's when, it hit me. That's when I went and talked to the pastor after. Was like, the Lord spoke to me today. Like, thank you for the message. And I'm in the car with my wife, and we had been in an argument. So I'm trying to share this incredible experience that I just had, but also like I owe her some apologies and being there for her. And so,
and her being Russian, she's also like, she's feisty.
Oh yeah, she's a pistol. I wouldn't have it any other way, right? But yeah, so I want to talk about it, and so I'm kind of sharing this with her, and I'm like, he told me 100%. So I'm like getting technical now. I'm like, so, and she's like, well, how? Just kind of allowing me to process, and I'm like, I don't know. I'll serve the church, and I'll get the commission, and I'll pay the church, and she's like, the Lord doesn't want us to give away all of our money. Like, you do have a family. And I was like, yeah, but I'm just trying to process. He said 100%. She's like, he told me 100% also. And I was like, whoa, what does this mean?
Whoa, hold on. Your wife.
Yeah.
She said that to you.
In the same service, the Lord had told her 100% also. But in my mind, I was asking, what am I to give? It's touch, right?
No.
I don't know what happened there.
Alasso, can you grab that? Can you grab that room? There's
The
one
remote.
right over there.
Nice. Anyways,
keep going.
Yeah, so then she's like, he told me 100% also. And I was like, whoa, you talk with God? Like, I'm new here, right? So I just started my walk early of last year. So I'm like, you talk to God? Like, she was so patient with me, not knowing what I'm doing. But so I'm just like, okay, so he told you 100%, he told me 100%. And then we're actually at church with her sister, and her sister's name is Yulia, and she kind of leans forward and is like, are you sure he's talking about money? We're like, oh, wow. Supposed to give 100% of ourselves to the Lord and stop worrying about all this human stuff and just give ourselves to him, and he'll make a way. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So we got baptized together. Matt baptized us.
Do you really?
In his pool with Steve Weatherford. So that was
awesome.
that was super cool.
Matt's such a G.
He is. He's awesome, man. But yeah, I was just like, wow, that was crazy. And so, you know, we talk now, me and the Lord. But for me, it was this. My wife has always, you know, been a woman of faith, and for me, it was a disconnect with. There's so many books on religion, and I think I had this chip on my shoulder against religion. So I viewed it as there's all these books that have good things, and if anyone's following any of these good books with good things, they're good by me, right? But that's not how it works. So I viewed it as me sitting in a library and not picking up a single book. So I'm like, I'm not growing or learning a thing by simply just saying all these are cool by me, right? So then I was like, you know, if I'm not even going to read what am I acting like? I'm not going to grow and develop and learn. Like, if I'm going to have this position, I should probably read every single book, not sit here and read none of them and sit out. So I was like, okay, like I'll step forward. Yeah. So gave ourselves to Christ in the office, with Andrew Gaines. I'm sure you know Andrew.
Yeah.
And so, you know, a couple of days later, my wife, you know, was guided by Andrew and his wife, Jennifer. And then, you know, we ended up getting baptized by Matt like a couple weeks later. That was really cool too, because it was supposed to be at an event with 20 people. And the host of that event was Curtis and Spring Eatman. And we were so fired up. We were going to get baptized in their pool. We're like, this is awesome. And I think their flight got delayed or something. They couldn't make it back. So it pushed it. And I just remember thinking, like, it got pushed for a reason, right? Like,
Yeah.
The Lord wants us to do this. So it's all good, right? And so we didn't let that shake us. And then Matt had a qualifying event where there was 100 people there. So now instead of 20 witnesses, there would be 100. But it had nothing to do with that at all. It was just like a team building culture event. It was an awesome event. And Steve Weatherford is his neighbor and just kind of popped in.
He just popped in.
Just popped in, right?
Okay.
And so now I meet Steve, and he's sharing his story and his walk in faith, and then how his son gave himself to the Lord from the same guy that led Steve. And I'm like, that is so cool. That's crazy. And then so Steve ends up being like the guest speaker, shares his story. And then at the end, he's like, and by the way, if anyone wants to get baptized, I'll baptize you right now in the pool. And I like run up to him. I'm like, that's for us 100%.
Do it.
I'm like, go to my wife. I'm like, we're getting in the pool. She's like, yep, we are. So it was awesome. So super special.
It's a good story, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great story.
That is.
Yeah.
I mean, to be like have those things happen, and then like you get baptized by Steve. That's incredible.
Yep, Matt and Steve, and it's cool too because I'm with Matt regularly, so it's like it's just so cool to be tied right there with a person I respect as a leader, as a husband, as a father, his walk in faith, his boldness, and then I get front row seats. So I suddenly have a lot of people in my corner that want to see me succeed in my journey, which is phenomenal. So
Matt's so easy to talk to. That's one of the things I admire about him. You go up to him, he'll put a smile on your face, crack a joke, and you just like, this guy's got it. Like he'll have your attention like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's so open with his experiences, and it comes from such a genuine place.
Yeah.
You know, you're always going to get value by a conversation with Matt. Really cool. But yeah, it was when I went to the office, there was a bunch of the leaders were praying, and I was praying like I'd never seen before. And I kind of came in to listen in because I was curious, but I didn't have anyone kind of guiding me yet. And so I'm kind of by the door, like eavesdropping a little bit. And there's a gentleman at the office, Andre, and he's like, oh, they've been at it for hours. I was like, I've never seen anything like this. I'm so intrigued by this. And then right then the door opens, and there's this guy, Joseph, at the office, and he's a great leader too. And he's like, oh, you can come on in. So I go in, everyone's praying, and I say a quick prayer, and then I leave. And then he comes by me later. I love a challenge, right? So he comes by to me later, and he kind of like taps me on the shoulder. He's like, too much praying for you in there? And I was like, no, man. Like, I thought that was amazing. I don't really know where I'm at on my walk. I don't really know what's next. And he's kind of like, I know a guy. He just walks me right back in the same office. And, I talk to Andrew, and Andrew kind of guides me on, giving myself to the Lord, and just so cool. And just like that, God changed everything about my life. Not depressed. I know who I am, where I'm going. And, I'm just grateful.
Has things gotten better within the household? I mean, because you said you have a 5-year-old. I know you and your wife are now going down this journey, and then your 5-year-old son, is he like seeing things differently? I mean,
absolutely. Well, I wanted to say really quickly, it's like everyone is in a battle. It's just that some people have no idea they're in a battle, and that was where we were at. There's always been so much love and appreciation for all of it. It was just this lack of understanding, and to then see it, to get baptized with my wife, and then someone come up and pray over us and say, you're going to get attacked. The enemy doesn't want to see this bond, so you're going to be attacked. It's like, cool. If someone comes and gives me a heads up that I'm about to be in a fight, that's all good. Yeah. I have a shot. But yeah, just super grateful that I've even been able to see that there's a battle going on. In the house, incredible. Every night, I'd take my son to bed, and his way of getting me to stay in there longer. Hey, can we read the Bible? I'm like, yeah, man, of course. Like I would never say no to that. So him and I, we'll read some of the Bible together. Ask him what he thinks of it. We'll talk about it. We pray every meal, and he loves going to church. He loves going to the office. It's awesome. And we pray in our home. It's a peaceful place. So yeah, definitely has changed.
Beautiful, man.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
I got one thing to add on that, and then I think we'll wrap it up. This is going almost on an hour. It's great. I love this topic on prayer. So I'm currently staying at someone else's house right now in this transition that I'm in. And the wife of where we're staying at, she intentionally prays over this house, over the corners, over the doors, over the windows, and does like cleansing. And like when you walk in this house, you can feel it.
Oh yeah.
It is totally different. And then when you walk into someone's house that's never done it, when I've been in it so long, I'm like, whoa, this stuff is crazy how this, like the spiritual realm works. And she's always got worship music on, and it's funny because Alasa knows this, right? I'm singing all the time now to these songs. She's dancing around, and I'm just like singing it and humming it. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
there's something about this state of joy of just being grateful, even when you're going through hard times, of knowing like who you are with. Right. And what is your purpose, but also like speaking it forth verbally, and even like singing those songs, are just being intentional. And this is where I've thought about lately in the last few months is it's so interesting. Whoa. It's so interesting how the enemy has made it like one of his missions to like attack prayer and attack like seeking Jesus. So much, because there's so much power in it. I watched this interview about this guy that's in some kind of like bunker, like underground military, and they're not able to say the word Jesus in any context. Even like kicking their foot, they can't just go Jesus, because there's power in his name. And so I don't know what the heck they're doing down there, but it's probably really bad.
Yeah, no good.
When I hear stuff like that these government officials are telling this guy, and he's like not whistling, he's like, can't tell you this, but he's like, this is what I can tell you. And he's like, I'm not even a believer. And he's like, I'm just telling you, we can't use his name down there.
Yeah,
Doesn't that make you think of like when we're verbally speaking and singing and like asking for things in the spiritual realm, it is so real. The enemy is so afraid of that.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy when you really start thinking about it.
I mean, I told you this before, like I believe, and I do believe this in me, and I've heard it from someone else to say, I think the devil does live within me, and because he knows you have vices, and he'll try to get you around your vices as much as you want, and as much as he can, to keep you further away, and then that's where I know for myself especially that I'm constantly I'm constantly apologizing to God, saying, God, I'm sorry for not putting you first, because I do this constantly, and I'm trying, and I do think there's some, admitting to your faults to that, and that there's a light of hope to that.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Can I speak in your life right now?
Go ahead.
In an interesting way? Because you're a father.
I am.
Imagine your son.
Father of two.
Okay, imagine your son, let's use your son, comes to you and has to apologize every time he goofs up, every single time. But you as a father, what is your reception to that?
I'm like, to me, if he were to come and tell me like, hey, I goofed up here.
Like all the time. Because you just said you find yourself apologizing all the time.
I'd be like, well, you don't always have to apologize to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, you knowing that you messed up is like, that's a big win for me.
Yep.
Yeah. But think of the father as he's looking at you. And if you're just coming to him and saying, I goofed up, he has so much grace for us. It's not that we shouldn't like come to him in that, but like, I want you to really ponder on this, Roy, like the rest of the day, of how God views you as a father, of how you view your son. If you're going to him, because he has so much grace. And I'm challenging you in this because I went through this of what is love really from the Father? What is his love? And when you really start figuring out what that love is, and it looks different and it's a journey to go on, but you come to the Father differently when you understand that he loved us first and not the other way around. And so when you know deep down inside in your heart that when Jesus died on that cross, that he did it and took away all of our sins, but it's even deeper than that. He created the connection with the Holy Spirit to the Father. And when you go and you really like ponder that and ask the Father, like, what does your love mean to me? How do I receive it? Like actually ask him how to receive it. Because I got my boy right over there too, right? And I got two other ones. And I wouldn't want them coming to me and just apologizing over and over and over and over and over again. I like it that they see their thing, but I want them to like really go and experience life and be like, man, no matter what you do, I always love you. And so it's not, I want you to come and apologize, but I want you to do it at the right state of mind. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one thing what I heard there is, I just want to.
I do it and I do it at the right state of mind of just like, I'm just going to, I go and do this one thing and then I'm just going to ask for forgiveness and then I'm good. And then I just go and do something else because I can always just ask for forgiveness. Yes, that does happen. But just like what you said, you have to come in the right state of mind to understanding and then constantly trying to get better. Not just knowing that you have an easy way out.
But with the love part, there's nothing that you can do because he's already given it to you. And so no matter how, this is an interesting thing that I had to go through this. Is you look at life and business and we're always trying to get better. But there's nothing I can do that God's going to love me any bit different. No matter what I do, he's always going to love me. He's never going to be disappointed in me. He's always going to love me and want me. He wants us to have the best things and not, make certain decisions, but whatever I make, he's always chasing us. And so it's a works versus faith right there is no matter, you have to like get to the point of no matter what I do, his love doesn't change for me. And so I can go to him and receive that love. Yeah. And when I went through that, it changed everything for me because I was always trying to get approval. Like when you're a kid, you want your approval of your father, which is different than getting his love. Those are two different things because we want them to be like, oh my gosh, you rocked it out. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not in that state of like, hey, you came in, you feel defeated, it doesn't change my love for you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, they get those two things and they put them together and they're different. They really are. Like his love is never changing for us. Anyways, I just wanted my rant.
Well, Tyler, I really enjoyed having this. I didn't know where this conversation was going to go, and I'm glad it went down this direction.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service in the military.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for you being the guy that you are, and that you're going to be this upstanding gentleman to help your son, and then he will pass this on to other future generations. And this has been a great win today for us.
Yeah,
do you
man.
Agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for your
Stacking
service
wins.
too.
Thanks,
and
guys.
I really appreciate the stories you've shared, and I got an interesting perspective on some stuff that I love when I talk to new people. I literally just met you coming in, and I can see you have a really good heart, man.
Appreciate you.
We're probably definitely going to have you back again.
Yeah, let's do it again.
There's some other things too that we didn't even get into.
Yeah, it's been a really good time.
All right. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Peace out.